welcome back to So There I Was podcast. I'm your host again, Travis Womack. Today's special guest is Sean Georges. Sean is a prior Navy / Marine. Okay, that was me, just Marine. I know it's only one or the other. I had to do it. I'm an Army guy. So
Yeah.
it's an Annapolis grad of 1983 and was a logistics Marine officer, and then later on became a JAG officer, and he recently retired from a general counsel as a civilian. And he's also the author of On Mission, Your Journey to Authentic Leadership, which is I'm sure we'll hear a lot about. I'm looking forward to it. And welcome to the show, Sean.
Yeah, honored to be here. Thank you for having me,
Uh,
Travis.
so you get the distinct privilege of being the first Marine on the show.
Oh man, honored.
I've had a Canadian Army. I've had several
Oh goodness.
Navy guys, and obviously a good handful of Army. So I'm still
Yeah.
missing Air Force now, but you're the
So
first Marine.
finally.
So, so it's up to you to defend all the bad talk we've done about the Marines.
Yeah, I'll do.
So,
I guess maybe my JAG experience will allow me to put up a defense.
there we go. So let's kind of start from the beginning a little bit. Annapolis and Naval Academy is a phenomenal place. It just dawned on me that a few years later, but my great uncle, I think, my grandfather's cousin, whatever that is, was a Navy grad as well. And
I'll be darned.
made it all the way to, he retired in 87, 88, I think, as a 3-star. So he's an awesome dude.
Yeah.
Anyways, but so I gotta let you tell us some stories. So I'm sure you got something from naval school or
yeah, from Annapolis days. Yeah. Well, it was an absolutely shaping experience. You spend 4 years learning about yourself and about yourself in a context, in sort of a mission context. And it's funny, I was having a conversation with someone the other day and talking about the Annapolis experience, and I said, because I'm from small town Midwest, just every time you go to a big city, I'm still looking up at the skyscrapers but so to go to Annapolis and be surrounded by such talent, such amazingly talented people, among my classmates, class of 83, we just had our 40th class reunion in October of last year. And, one of my classmates is the Secretary of the Navy. Carlos del Toro, and you've got admirals and generals, and you've got pilots and astronauts and CEOs of, just a remarkable group of people, and so every day, and I use the phrase, kind of a naval phrase, I guess, a rising tide lifts all boats, and it really does. You find out both. I guess what your capabilities are, and if you have gifts, maybe learn about your gifts, but also you learn about your limitations.
Oh yeah,
as well. And but just there was, although it was especially plebe year, it's tough, it's challenging. They put the pressure on and keep it on, but I loved being there, felt honored every single day to be in that place, surrounded by the people I was surrounded by. So it was, the beginning of formally my leadership education, which kind of we'll talk a little bit more about the book, but that's kind of where the learning journey began in earnest. And one of the reasons why I went there, I wanted to test myself and see if I had what it took to lead and find out what that meant. And so it was an incredible experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've gotten to visit there by accident when I was stationed in Virginia, cutting up to, when you start driving around like Annapolis and, trying to go to Virginia Beach or go to Norfolk, like all that just kind of goes. I was like, oh crap, this is the wrong turn.
So, you'll end up down at the gate 3 or whatever.
Yeah, I was like, these are some really old buildings.
That's right.
It's pretty funny. So so you finished there and you went up to be a Marine officer. and what logistics.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
how
So
that?
spent enough time aboard ship to know, and I'm from Indiana, so grew up surrounded by cornfields and on solid ground, and I enjoy that sensation of.
Yeah,
So, no, I saw enough of of the Navy to, but what I was impressed by with the Marines that I saw walking around the yard was uh, their approach to leadership and with the real focus on servant leadership, that your responsibility is to serve your Marines in the direction of mission. Uh, Simple, clear. So,
oh
yeah,
yeah,
I guess I'm a simple guy, but uh, there was something about that culture and the mission that I wanted to see if I could
yeah,
uh, become like them,
absolutely.
lead like
There's
them.
it's interesting because I was a logistics officer in the Army, and going to schools and courses and stuff. I've interacted with several Marines over the time, and one of my good friends is still in, and she was saying like how it's like the hardest thing about being a logistics in the Marines is that everything is based off of like a 72-hour to 5-day window, and then
Mhm.
like the Army, the huge logistics operation has to kick in,
Right, right,
and
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
this the scale of the Army's logistics is like it's
Oh,
freaking
can't
ridiculous.
even imagine. Yeah, yeah.
But I was telling her, I was like, yeah, it's cool. I was like, we do some cool stuff. And I've never gotten to do it. I know we have the capability, we just don't do it that much. But is the ship to ship transfer of
Mhm.
like
Oh, yeah.
food on
Yeah,
an
that
aircraft carrier? I'm like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, how
just,
do they?
in fact, I was watching a little documentary the other day, and when you think about, uh, you've got two platforms in motion
Yeah,
independently
yeah,
on the water, and you're bringing live,
yeah.
ammunition and in addition to other things back and forth.
Oh
It is
yeah,
art, and it is remarkable. And
yeah.
it's just, one of the biggest things, and I know you got this too from the Army, and it sort of, we'll talk a little bit about kind of what do you bring to the civilian world, but it's that, the, I mean, you've got to be good, right? You've got to know your stuff. You've got to be pushing yourself, bringing your best, but little is done by single
Oh
individuals.
gosh,
It
no,
is
yeah,
everything is just a
yeah,
complex team event. And I think that's the thing that one of the things we get from the military, without a doubt, is that sense of team and how important and what it takes to be a good teammate,
yeah.
and to lead and to follow. And you're being a good teammate, you're following, you're leading, all sort of at the
Oh yeah.
same time. And that's the thing that I think I really brought into the civilian world, at least in understanding.
Absolutely. I tell people that all the time. When I was in infantry and I was a recruiter, they're like, oh, why would you join the infantry? Like, the only thing you can do when you get out is be a cop or security guard. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you've never led an infantry squad or
Yeah, no,
platoon.
that's
Like,
right.
I was
You're,
like,
you're,
it's got nothing to do with the job. It has everything to do with before the job, like kicking
yeah,
a door and blow. Sometimes the easy part. I was like
absolutely,
getting 9 guys that hate each other to be on
that's
the
it,
be on
right.
the same page. I was
Yeah,
like,
it's
I mean, we had 2 guys from Ohio, 2 from Florida, and 3 from Texas
remarkable. Yep.
during football season. We don't get along.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you
That's
know,
right.
and but
And
you get different religions, you get different races and cultures and all this other stuff.
absolutely.
And, I
The,
grew up in
Yeah,
you know,
the diversity is absolutely just astounding. I remember my plebe summer at Annapolis. So in one room here's me, this kid from Illinois and Indiana. One of my other roommates was from right outside of Boston,
oh
Massachusetts,
yeah,
with the accent. And another guy was from Georgia, a guy from South Dakota and Long Island.
yeah,
So, I mean, I'd never been to any of those
yeah,
places
yeah,
to that
absolutely.
point. So, you almost had different languages, and yeah, it was.
I always joke about that. It's like, diversity is important for a lot of things, but it gives you like perspectives of,
Yes,
because
yes,
if you get that example that you just gave and I give you all a problem by yourself,
right,
you're gonna attack it completely differently, you know.
absolutely.
But you get that guy that's like, well, back on the farm we used to do this. You're like,
Uh-huh.
okay,
Uh-huh.
let's do that. And like, oh,
Right.
back in the
Yeah.
city, we should do this. And it's like,
Right. Right.
and you just kind of it ping pongs and
It's just critical. In fact, I give great credit to my roommate who was a prior enlisted Navy corpsman. And so this was the first military experience I had had, plebe year, plebe summer, and plebe year. And when they would ask you a question like, "What is your major malfunction?" or "How did you get in here?" You know,
right,
I would be trying to come up with an answer. Wow, I'm not really sure. And I mean, I was taking it all very seriously. And to get back to my room, to have this, he had 3 years of unbelievable experience as a
yeah,
Navy enlisted and a Navy corpsman, and to get his perspective on what they were doing to us. I was taking it all in and taking it very
yeah,
seriously, and he'd just sit there calmly and say, "Sean, here's what they're doing.
yeah.
Don't let them get to you." And it was just probably the single person who enabled me to endure, especially the early days.
Oh yeah,
I had zero perspective. So yeah, when you think of diversity, that's why I think about diversity of experience.
oh yeah,
Diversity of background. You need and perspective, like you
yeah.
said. Yeah, yeah, it's
It's crazy.
power.
The phrase I've always gone with that is embrace the suck.
Yeah,
Like
there you go.
it's,
Absolutely.
you
One of the
have
most
to
valuable
just hug it
phrases.
and just don't let go.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
that's crazy. Well, let's get into your book a little bit since we're kind
Yeah,
of we're
sure.
already on the edge of it. So on mission, your journey to authentic leadership. So
Yeah.
what inspired you to write it and when? Let's start there.
Absolutely. No, it's a good story. So I'm a co-author. The
Okay.
other author was my best buddy from third grade on,
Oh wow.
and yeah, in this tiny little town in central Illinois, we grew up together. Best buddies. Name is John Buford. Uh, and had all the adventures growing up and played high school football together. John he went to a state university, and next time John Buford and I meet up is at the basic school in Quantico, Virginia.
Oh,
So
wow.
we were both commissioned in the Marine Corps. John spent 22 years, I think, total. And he was, force recon, one of these just top of the food
Oh yeah.
chain. Uh, he's an introvert. Some people think that you've got to be an extrovert to lead, which is absolute nonsense. So we kind of proved the point. But so John, I leave the Marine Corps, went sort of the JAG route, and after I left as a major, peace had broken out all over the world in 1996, and I was headed to the Pentagon, and I
Yeah.
thought, I think I'm ready to get off the ride. But so came back home, and John stayed longer. And so in any event, we'd have these conversations periodically. We stayed in touch over the years. And what I observed, and by that point, I was general counsel and senior vice president of HR for a publicly traded company. And John had gotten his PhD, but every one of our conversations went back to leadership. We were always, this is one of the things that the Marine Corps, I think, does. It really imprints the importance of leading, not just for officers or people of rank, staff NCOs, NCOs. I mean, acts of leadership can happen at any rank and
Right.
should be encouraged. And so every one of our conversations came back to what we were observing around us. He was now he was in Western North Carolina at a Brevard College. He was a professor of management there and
Wow.
outdoor leadership. And we kept talking about it. And I said, John, we may have something to offer. So we decided to write a book, not just about, this is how Marines lead. You should lead like Marines, you
Yeah.
civilians. Uh, we knew it had to be different. And he's, kind of his foundation is in experiential education. And what we did, we took this is, is what happened. Two Marine officers,
Yeah.
you give them a
That's what
box of
Ireland is too.
yeah, 10 years. We took 10 years. We took our time and we wrote a book about the becoming process.
Mhm.
What certainly what what we believe the foundational perspective on leading is, which is to serve with a mission focus. But uh, how do you become and how do you use your life as the learning journey, the school, if you will?
Mhm.
And, taking the good stuff, paying attention when you're following, what resonates, what doesn't, who are you as a leader? And we put together a book over the course of 10 years. We sent a manuscript off to a publisher. They selected us quickly, which we were honored. And this thing was published actually a year and a half ago,
Okay.
and we're real proud of it. But we wanted it to be useful. Put in a few C stories, along the way, but it's really about life and how you use and our part of our point is that uh, it is about, part of our mission was to develop a community of authentic, and we've kind of keyed on that point. It's in our title there, authentic leadership, the real
Oh yeah.
thing. Uh, to help support a community of authentic leaders who are prepared to serve at home, at work, in the community. So we're real proud of it, and I'm pleased at what we produced, and based on that, have done some speaking, and we've done some leadership training, and
That's awesome.
uh, try to gear it up even more this year. Yeah,
It's
thank you.
interesting you hit on authentic leadership. I think that's you know, I think each person's definition of that is critical, but
Sure.
it's kind of it's a self-awareness thing, I would argue.
I think that's
And,
a large part of it. Yeah,
you
I
know,
think.
and I think that self-awareness starts though with like how do you, claw through the cloud of stereotypes?
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
oh, you're an army officer, so you're type A personality. I'm like,
yeah,
I can be, but I'm naturally. What am I naturally? Is what I would
yeah, yeah.
say. And
Yeah, so the idea, exactly, great point. So, using John and I as an example, I am, being a lawyer and I do public speaking and did a TED talk and you put a microphone in front of me with a topic and I probably have a few words to say.
yeah,
So I'm a little more of an extrovert. John, absolute introvert, incredibly uh, effective as a leader, and you start from who you are
yeah,
exactly. But the perspective, and we lay this out in the book, is one of service. And what we do, we put together this. Uh, don't know if it's original or not, but what does leadership look like back of the napkin? So again, got out our crayons. Okay, mission is at the top, capital letters. That's, there it is at the top, mission. That's the thing that brings people together. That's what the we is focused on accomplishing. Then you have your teammates or family members,
hmm,
right? You have various, skills and abilities and interests and strengths and weaknesses, and there's your team, and they're attracted to the mission at some level, and your job when you're leading, and you don't always have to be the leader, right? It's sometimes it's shifting and
yep,
moving around, but your place on this back of the napkin, you're at the bottom. You're the With humility, you're the smallest figure. You're looking up, aligned with mission. Mission is clear. Your team is next in your line of sight. Mission is at the top. You're looking up at your teammates, and you are building a relationship with your teammates. And you're asking yourself a simple question: what is my best and highest role in this situation, in these circumstances, to serve my teammates, my family, whomever I'm doing this thing with, the we, so that we can have a big arrow moving in the direction of mission?
yeah,
What is my best and highest role in serving my teammates in the direction of this mission? And, you know, then how do you get the answer? A lot of people say, well, what if I don't know the answer? One of the great ways to figure out what the answer is to ask them.
Yep. It's like
What do
cheating.
you guys need from me right now?
Yeah.
Sean, and I've had this happen in the civilian world. Otherwise, Sean, we've got it. We kind of need you to get out of the way. All right.
Okay.
Or we need more of this, need more funding. Need we need this position filled. We need these assets, these
Right.
resources. We need
This
mission
time.
clarity. Need to
Right.
exactly. The what is will and sometimes you deliver the wrong what. You're gonna learn from that.
Yep.
Debrief, learn from it, and re-engage as a servant leader in the direction with a mission focus. And the one thing, as we were writing the book, we were nearing completion. What we would do is, I'm in Southern Indiana, he's in Western North Carolina. We'd meet in Nashville and just kind of rent a hotel room and sort of gear down and go through the manuscript. And I said, John, I feel like there's something missing. And he said, well, what's that? And I said, we haven't talked about love.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, you're right. And I said, it's hard to talk about, hard for Marines to talk
Yeah.
about, but what we observed, and I think it is just a truism, is that you cannot lead authentically unless somewhere in your heart, first of all, your heart is engaged. You love the people that you are serving.
Absolutely.
I don't think you get to the real stuff until you can get there. And I saw this in every impressive officer or staff NCO or NCO. Man, they cared deeply about their people. And not to the exclude, it's mission and people. It's not
Right.
which
Right.
one is more important, mission or so.
They both
That
fail
was
without each other.
exactly. Yeah, that's right. Even when they're not lovable, love is a
Yeah.
verb. Lead is a verb,
Yeah.
right? So love them anyway, but lead from that place and sometimes that means you're going to be, you're going to be firm.
Yeah.
Uh, Sometimes you're going to correct behavior, and not everybody is meant to be on every team.
Yeah.
So sometimes the most loving thing you've done, you can do, and I learned this in HR over 22 years in corporate
Move,
America.
move them on.
Sometimes you need to say goodbye and hey, you need to be on another mission. But you do it humanely.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, that servant leader perspective, when I realized you didn't have to be perfect to be a leader, what you had to be was human.
Yeah.
And of course we're always striving for our best. It's not like
Absolutely.
you're just kind of showing up every day. You're always trying to bring your best, but you don't have to have all the answers. Sometimes you don't even quite know what the question is, but I bet your team does.
Yeah.
I bet together you can find, and it's so that's where the magic came. And
Yeah.
applying it in the Marine Corps, applying it in law firm as a practicing attorney, and then applying it in the civilian sector. It works. It is the heart and soul of leadership,
Absolutely.
the servant's perspective.
Yeah. It's interesting because one of my favorite movies is the movie 13 Days.
Oh yeah,
And
oh,
in my church years ago, I used to use that as a what it means to be a leader. I take
yeah.
clips from that and then have a little,
Wow,
play 2 or 3 minutes, and then talk, whatever.
wow.
And but my favorite character in that whole movie is Kevin Costner's character, and because he's like, I think he's the chief of staff. That's
Yeah.
his role for the president, and because everybody watches that and everybody thinks, oh, you gotta be JFK
And
because
missiles of October, is
yeah,
that what?
it's a
Yes.
Cuban Missile Crisis, right?
Right, right,
And
right.
but everybody wants to be JFK, like, oh, he's the leader. Look at him and how he makes decisions and how he deals with these generals and blah 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 blah. I'm like, no, you gotta watch Kevin Costner.
Right.
He's the number two,
Yeah.
and look how hard he works as the number two to
Yes.
get this phone call, that over here, talk to this person, yell this person, push
Abs-
the news guy to the elevator, all these things, and like he's a bully when he needs to be a bully. He's a team player.
Yeah.
He plays all the roles. I was like, but his job, he doesn't make decisions.
Right.
The
Right.
number one made the decisions, and he's the executor. And I remember I used to teach that. Then I joined the army,
Hmm.
And I found out my two favorite jobs I ever had were company XO
Wow.
and battalion staff. And like
Yeah.
people don't join to be an XO or staff; they join to be
Right.
command.
Right.
And like I did my year of command,
Interesting. Yeah.
and but
Yep.
command was like I had to morph into this like I can't go down there and do it.
Right.
Like
Mm.
it's an insult, you
Yes.
know,
Absolutely.
to do that. And like I have to like embrace this, like, look, I need this done. Y'all have until this time. And like
Yes.
and like XO, go make sure that's done for me. Like it was so hard because it's just not who I am. I grew up on a ranch. Like I'm a doer.
Yeah. Yeah.
My fiance, she's like, all the time, she's like, you
Right.
don't have to help with the dishes or clean them. Like, no, I still believe my dad yelling at me when I was a kid, like, you
Yeah.
don't watch people work, you
Right.
know?
Right.
And so,
Right.
because on a ranch, it's like
So good. I
that's like
love.
the
Yeah.
cardinal sin of like
Find something to
there's a
do.
postal dude, like just start pulling weeds or
Yeah.
something. Don't just
Yeah.
stand there.
That's
So
that's right.
and
And that's, that also, and that ties into the idea of being a good teammate. And I think that was really cemented in my head at Annapolis is and like you say, that there's always some way you can support, even if it's a word of encouragement or some, providing some feedback or picking, bringing some water if your
mhm,
teammates are thirsty. And none of those things are below. You can still maintain your rank or people have this sense, well, I can't do that because I've got this position as senior executive vice
right.
president. So,
I
well,
don't mop.
yeah, you
Yeah.
won't lose your title if go, go get lunch for the team that's out there working or stay late.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, those are the things, the things that I think were that we learned in the military about leadership and about following and about what it takes to be a good teammate, if applied in the civilian world, are extraordinary.
Yeah.
And the education, the leadership education we had, real world OJT, all
Oh yeah.
this, not the sitting in a classroom and listening to theories and Maslow's hierarchy and stuff like that, but just learning what it means to show up, be on time, make sure your gear is squared away,
Oh yeah.
and help out a buddy who needs a hand, and and motivate and inspire. All of those things become ingrained in us, and so change the mission, which is what we like about the model.
Hmm.
You change the mission. Can be a nonprofit,
Yeah.
can be a family, can be a project, can be a publicly traded company, whatever, a military unit. If you lead as a servant, serving your people, not asking them to serve you,
Right.
your responsibility is to serve them in the direction of mission. That is that is the starting place.
Oh yeah.
That is it. And I, I've become absolutely unapologetic about this idea of servant leadership as being not just, it's not a style, it's not a theory, about it is leadership.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we talk about in the book, and using your life as the school.
Interesting because it's just popped in my head. So General Patton, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's read some kind of book, I'm sure, at some point if you've been in the military for more than a day. So I was reading a book about oh, my brain just stopped. Who was the head of the army during World War One? Oh my gosh, it's not
Or two during World War II.
World War One.
Oh, one.
Um,
Yeah.
oh,
Who would
is it
that have
Marshall?
been?
Marshall? Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
so they people don't realize that Lieutenant Colonel Patton was on his staff. So when they deployed the American forces to England, you know, pre-invading France for World War
Right.
One, they're there for a couple of months as the whole Spanish flu came through. during all that and decimated our force. And but he was Colonel Patton was tasked with developing like a leadership school. And
Yes.
that school that he developed back in 1916, 17, whatever it was, is now the Army CGSC
Oh, I'll be darned.
for majors. And
Mhm.
so it's kind of funny. It's like, you know, I'm not a huge fan of Patton's leadership style. It's very direct, but you
Yeah.
know, it was needed during that time in the 40s, obviously. But it's interesting that, you know, he had the foresight even to develop the program that developed now all the Army majors, and there's a lot of us.
Yes, yes, exactly. No, absolutely. And thank God, yeah, and that's one of the other things about the military that I think that the civilian world needs to kind of embrace is the responsibility of the more senior folks to develop.
Yeah,
I mean, you and I know, I mean, there wasn't a day when somebody wasn't kind of, coming up beside you and saying, "Hey, come on over here, let me show you this,"
yeah,
or giving you feedback
yeah,
on performance or I mean, the mentorship was just built into
yeah,
the bricks and mortar of and those are some of the things I think former prior military miss when they come into the civilian world because I remember when I got to my first law firm, the word was not, leaders eat last. The word was eat what you kill. Another, everybody's out,
that's a
trying
method.
to land clients and
Yeah,
it was like every man for himself. Oh,
yeah,
okay. That's a
that's
different.
not an unhealthy team right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Pershing, General Pershing. That my brain just
Yeah.
wow.
There you go. Perching, right?
I was not going to sleep tonight until that came through. I
Yeah.
hate that. I'm
Yeah.
reading.
Marshall was,
I'm reading on George C. Marshall now too, and I'm like,
okay.
that's not right.
Yeah.
So, but Pershing, I actually find Pershing. We talk about leadership and challenges of leadership, right? Pershing was a captain and promoted from captain to full bird, and
Oh, wow. Wow.
then he got put as instructor at West Point, and then he got put into the charge of the entire army. I'm like,
Interesting.
that's a
Yeah.
fast track of rank. We don't do it anymore. We don't
Yeah.
skip all the
Yeah.
ones in
It's
the
a
middle.
deep selection right there.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, well, in honor of the podcast,
Yes.
I'm heavily enjoying this, and I definitely have to get your book and read it.
Thank you.
And we'll definitely add a link
Sure.
in the
Thank you.
podcast for everybody to share. Is it on Amazon or where can we get the
Yes.
book?
Amazon,
Okay,
Audible. So
okay,
if you like to listen to them, you can do
awesome.
that.
Did you read it,
Yeah.
or did you have somebody else read it for you?
What's that?
Did you read the article, or did you have somebody else do it for you?
Well, because both of us
Yeah,
wrote it, it was difficult to break it out. So we screened and yeah, we had a professional.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, so
It's a
it's
good deal.
really nice.
I always look at those and is it you get a third party person reading them. They always do a great job, but
Yeah,
like the hardest thing is sarcasm in a book,
right.
you know, because it's like they don't. No, you didn't pause. That's not how I tell that
Yeah,
joke.
yeah, that's not how I
so,
meant it. Yeah, no, they
so
did a fine job.
so we'll
Yeah.
definitely add that in there. But
Great,
and if you're listening, by all means, check it out. Love to endorse people's work and what they're doing.
appreciate
But for the podcast, the rule is you have to start a story with "So there I was" and tell something funny
it.
that happened
Yeah,
in your.
yeah.
So
Oh, you
I'll
want me to?
I will pass you the mic. Go for it.
Oh, okay. Well, one of the stories that I always think of is something that happened just 2 years ago. I'm a I ride a bicycle, ride a bike through the cornfields of southern Indiana, and John does some cycling up in the mountains of western North Carolina. So this is kind of a good leadership story too. And so I took my bike out there and went to visit my buddy and I knew I mean, he's in incredible shape. I'm in reasonable shape, not incredible. And so about halfway through my week there, I knew the day was going to come. And so Wednesday morning, John said, "Hey, let's take the bikes up into the mountains and go for a ride." I said, "John, I just want to remind you again that I live in the lowlands, the flatlands of southern Indiana near the Ohio River, and we're in the mountain." He said, "Sean, let's get the bikes on the truck. Okay, roger that. So we take the bike, and on our way to the drop off point, I said, "What are we doing?" And he said, "Oh, we're going to do this just gorgeous ride. We're going to start here in Western North Carolina. We're going to drop down to South Carolina, and we're going to come back up, and we'll finish where we started." And how long will this ride be, John? And he said, "Well, it's 100 kilometers." And I said, "That sounds like a lot of kilometers.
Yeah.
It's a lot of clicks."
Yeah, 46
So,
miles. No big deal.
so we start off and we head south. We're going basically downhill and we're riding together, and it's joyful and it's beautiful, but I knew that there were mountains somewhere up ahead, and we come circling back to North Carolina, and they're up ahead. We come to this intersection, this T in the road, and I look up to my left, and I see the switchbacks, and I see the mountain. And we stopped at this intersection. I'm standing there on my bike. John's just to my inside, to my left, and there's a sign, and this sign said, "This route is for elite riders only. Over the course of the next 6 miles, you will climb, 3,000
Oh yeah.
feet to go over the highest point on the Eastern Continental Divide." And I'm pretty sure there was a skull and crossbones on the sign. I might have been imagining that, but I do know this. I'm sure my jaw had dropped open, and I'm reading the sign, and John looks over at me, looks at the sign, and then he says 6 words to me. And I'll just never forget, because we were about 60K into this ride. I was feeling good about myself right up to that point. And John looked at me and he said, 6 miles, granny gear, follow me. And no further discussion. He was going to take the lead. I was going to follow. That was the only way the we was going to summit this mountain. Because if he hadn't been there, I'll be honest, I would have looked, to my right and left, and I would have backed down
Oh yeah.
down the mountain. And but for his almost physically leading me up that mountain, he didn't he didn't coddle. He knew he needed to take the lead. He'd done this ride before. I knew he wasn't going to leave my body
Yeah.
on the mountain.
Sucks to be you.
And yeah, yeah, really, he wasn't gonna, and he
Yeah.
was gonna stick with me, and we were gonna do this together. But kept it simple, short commute. That's John. 6 miles, granny gear, follow me. Clarity, right? Uh, I was no less of a leader because I was following him. But in that situation, I needed to follow and he needed to lead. And it was just just a great story. And one of those moments where, you think about how, leadership is a small unit thing. It's about
Mhm.
small teams, and then it scales out from there. But so anyway, that was just a
That's
great
awesome.
story. Real leadership in action, and me
I think
not
that's
very
yeah.
impressive.
I think that gives me the name of the podcast on this episode. I want to call it Granny Gear Follow Me.
Yeah, nice. 6 miles, grinding gear, follow me.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
just you just gave me my tagline for this episode. That's
there you
great.
go. Nice,
So
nice.
yeah,
Hey, thank
this is a
you.
great time, Sean. I really appreciate it, man. It's leadership is a discussion that will never end. And
Yes,
I think that it's very important for everybody to always be doing that analysis of,
yeah,
what role do I need to be playing right now?
right.
What
Nice.
this is what needs to get done. Can I humble myself? It sounds weird, but and just be a Joe,
Yes.
and like I just need to carry some weight and go sweat, or hey, everyone here
Or
is
I need
kind
to
of
lead from the
yeah.
front. Maybe that's your best
Everyone's this
advice.
is a gaggle of a mess, and someone needs to start barking some orders. Well,
That's right.
and
Exactly.
it's and everything in between. And I
But
think
it's
there's a
not just one side. If you've only got one tool in your tool bag,
yeah.
you're gonna fail. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the most anybody can yell. I think it's the
Yeah.
most important tool. I've always argued is grab them up,
Yeah.
And I remember very well. Not to circle back on this, but like I remember when I was a private in the never ending debate of the Army's barracks as it's going across the internet still. Our whole entire like sewage system back flushed into
Oh, wow.
we had a community showers, community bath, community toilets, all that
Right.
stuff, and like these toilets are like 3 or 4 of them are just like this, just poop water
Oh,
everywhere.
wow.
I've been in
Wow.
the unit for like 3 weeks. So like, hey, Womack, I'm like, oh, this is gonna suck.
Yeah,
'Cause, like, that's
embrace,
you're just like,
embrace.
you're like, all right, here we go. Me and two of the Joes are, and they're like, all right, I dropped out of college for this. This is great. But fast forward, when I'm in command, I'm out there mopping the hallway at the end of the day. And
Absolutely.
and my orderly room was just like, sir, whoa, whoa. Like my first time was like, go get the mop out of his hands. I'm like, dude, I'm not above a mop. It's okay. Like
Nice.
I walk down this hallway just like y'all do.
Yep.
I have nothing to do this 20 minutes up there.
Right.
I'd just go ahead and mop it,
Yeah.
not hurting anything. And they're like, oh no, that's what we're here for. I'm like,
Yeah.
y'all are
Yeah.
doing awards and leave forms, and my job is to sign them. I have the easiest part of the whole system here. So, but
Nice.
yeah. So, well, I appreciate the time again, like I said, and
Thank
we'll
you.
we'll have to get your John on the episode as well. It'd be great.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great.
We'll do another episode here sometime and get a tag team and kind of. I would love to.
I'd love that.
The introvert and extrovert side of things, and
Yeah, nice.
and,
Yeah.
and then it truly becomes all right. So there were 2 Marines, and an Army guy in a bar. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. That's right.
So, well, cool. Well, if
Awesome.
you're out there and you haven't subscribed, by all means, please subscribe. It helps me out. And then if you want to be a guest, by all means, reach out to me on womackc3.com and we'll schedule a time. It's very easy. Sean can attest to it. You just log on, click a date, type in your email, and get a Zoom link, and here we are. So it's a good time. So we'll see you next time on the next episode, and I'll see you then.